Thank you, Tom. Oh, here we go. So if you're not familiar with the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program, some very forward-thinking individuals began this program in 1998. It's funded by the Ohio Oil and Gas Station producers. Percentage of their production goes towards this program, and our goal and our mandate is to educate the general public about our industry. And we do this, great picture, right? We're going to start here with a commercial that recently appeared by Geico. If you have not seen this commercial, it's a lot of fun. This is what we do every day right here. Yeah, that didn't work. If we could get the, here we go.
I can't believe it.
Have we just hit the motherload with soft serve ice cream?
I got cones. Anybody wants one? No, I can't believe how easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car insurance with Geico.
We struck sprinkles!
Believe it, Geico could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
If you like this video,
Yeah, that's a day in their life, right? That's what we do every day. But really, so what we do at OOGA is largely, the top one you see is K through 12, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We teach we teach teachers. We also get in the classroom. If you go to the bottom there, the guest speakers, outreach programs. We do a lot of things with workforce and career development, industry safety, and firefighter training. That's a big part of what we do. We're the second program in the country, by the way, to do this, and we're widely recognized as a leader in what we do. Scholarship, we do scholarships. We do a science fair every year. This program was started in 1998, as I said. We've been doing this for 21 years, very successful. We've reached over 3,000 teachers in 1,500 different schools, and we have participants in our teacher workshops from all 88 counties in Ohio. We have reached into West Virginia to help them begin a program, and this year we're going to reach into Pennsylvania to help them begin a program. One of the big things that we're going to focus on this year is our economic impact studies, and Mr. Jerry James will teach you a little bit about that here in a minute. So I've been working on the geology teacher workshops part of it. In 2016, the Department of Education decided that geology was an important part of the classroom, and being a geologist myself, I helped to develop the geology teacher workshops, and we've had great success with that. I want to thank the Kimball companies for that. Chris has been instrumental in helping us promote these programs. We do a one-day classroom, we do a second-day field trip, and if you're a geologist, field trips are where it's all at. We like the fields. I'm going to move on here. If you have not seen this, I've clipped this. This is one of the things that one of our teachers has come up with, and you can see this at our booth over here. It's a great teaching aid about topography and geology, and it's just basically fun to play with. If you're a geologist, you know you like to play with a lot of stuff. Not so much like engineers. Let that run. This is called, and you can find this on YouTube, the video. You can build that table for, I don't know, $900 plus or minus. And I'm going to skip through that. So every year since 2013, OOGA has awarded a pipeline award to someone who has helped promote this program from outside. And you can see there the recent recipients have done great work in helping to educate the public and promote the program and promote the industry. And this year, we're going to recognize an individual who has made significant and positive impacts on Ohio's oil and gas. So in the development of the geology workshop since 2014, 2016, we have incorporated a lot of individuals, and two of those individuals are Craig Whitaker and Heather Bryant, and those were both teachers. And we're here to recognize this year Mr. Craig Whitaker with the Pipeline Award for 2019. He's a graduate of Perry High School and continued his collegiate career at Kent State University in pursuit of a degree in earth science. He was a member of the 2000 Mid-American Conference Championship baseball team. He furthered his education at Mississippi State University, earning a master's degree in geosciences. He designed and implemented the first physical geology program at Perry Local Schools, grades 10 through 12, and that program has grown from 40 students to 160 students each year. And I'm here to tell you, he's very passionate about his teaching, and he has helped both in our STEM workshops and our geology workshops. And if you could please come on stage to accept this award, Craig. He's also an adjunct professor of physical geology at Stark State and teaches earth science for Eastern Gateway Community College. Mr. Craig Whitaker. And I can say honestly, it's been very much a pleasure to work with Craig. Like I say, he's very passionate about what he does. He tries to teach me stuff all the time. So there you go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Say a few words.
Yes.
Here, can you hold it?
Can I take it home?
You can take it home. I just want to say thank you to the committee for this honor. It's been a privilege and honor to be part of the STEM and the OOGA programs. Educators from Ohio and abroad appreciate all the support you provide to Ohio educators, and it's changing the lives of young people around the state daily. So we appreciate everything that you do for us, and it goes back to the classroom. So thank you very much.
Look forward to this year. We're going to do a lot of workshops this year. Looking forward to working with Craig. Yeah, let's see. Missed that slide. Another pretty picture. We do get around to the community a great deal. We do over 100 events every year. And Rhonda is very, very diligent in representing our industry at various associations, various events around the state. And we all do guest speaker events. We have one coming up, which is in Youngstown, where we're bringing Mr. Alex Epstein in, who is the author of The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. Would encourage you, if you're in that area, if you could attend that event. He'll be around for 24 hours. We're going to do radio spots. Very, very compelling speaker. So one of the most important things that we do this year is going to be our economic impact study. We've done some studies for the Wayne National Forest to convince them that drilling is a good thing. That's part of our economic impact study, as well as convincing the general public that oil and gas and fossil fuels in general are a good thing and have helped their lives over the past several years. And towards that end, we're promoting the Shale Crescent USA, which Mr. Jerry James is a large part of, and I would like to invite him to the stage to help to tell you about this economic impact study that OOGA is funding for this year. Mr. Jerry James. I tried to leave him enough air in the room. If you don't know Jerry, again, you shouldn't be in the room.
Thank you. Tell my mom that. See if I can get it changed over. We'll start with there. Want to go back one. Mentioned 3 studies that are going on right now, and one of them is he doing in conjunction with Inventions volunteers from Shale Crescent USA, and we appreciate the cooperation of Rhonda Rita and the UGEEP board and the industry. And that was, the question came up, what kind of good does this industry really deliver for the public? And this is really why we started UGEEP to begin with, is it was to inform the public of how valuable this industry was. So what we did is we looked at what's really happened over the last 10 years since shale development has taken off in this country. And so what we did a study with Jack Kleinhens, the economics expert from Cleveland, and we had him do a detailed analysis of exactly what's happened during the last 10 years of increased production. So we're gonna have a little quiz. Rhonda, does the education stuff, so there's gonna be a quiz for the industry. How much money do you think end users have saved cumulative over the last 10 years? Don't worry, it's multiple choice because it's too early for all you to do any math. Is it $100 million? $1 billion? $100 billion? $1 trillion? How much money cumulatively has the industry, as the public saved, businesses and consumers, over the last 10 years? How many people think for the $100 million? 1 billion. 100 million. Billion. Got some 100 billions in the back of the room, 1 trillion. The people who guessed 1 trillion, you are conservatively correct. Over $1 trillion has been saved cumulative in the last 10 years by end users on their natural gas bills, all from this industry. What creates this? Which whatever creates all of the economic theory. What creates lower prices? The savings came from the lower natural gas prices. Prices went up, prices went down. We've all lived this, and we all know this painfully. But right there, it gives you a graphical representation on an annual basis of how much prices went up and then how much they came back down. This is where you may find a little more shocking. The lower natural gas prices, naturally, classic economic theory comes from increased natural gas production. Where did that production come from? First, I want to ask everybody, does anybody want to guess how much production went up? 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%? Somebody shout out a number. Production went up 50% in the last 10 years. It's hard to believe in a 150-year-old industry that we would increase production 50% in 1 year. This is what you're going to really find shocking, though. The red bar is the Appalachian Basin, or what we like to call Shale Crescent USA, where you can build the most economical petrochemical plants in the entire world. The red represents this area. The yellow represents the rest of the entire United States, and it shows the production growing from 08 to 18. You'll notice the yellow bar even disappears 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, the entire increase in natural gas production that created that $1 trillion savings was all from Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. You want to see that a little bit more bigger on a graphical basis? The majority of the production increase came from that. Does anybody want to guess how much it was? 85% of the increased natural gas production came from Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. No wonder, I talk to Gene Huck all the time after I did this report, and I said, no wonder we could not adjust our business model fast enough. Look at the numbers when you look at it. Production's up 31 billion cubic feet a day, 26.5 of it comes from Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And I'm going to show you a few facts that are just absolutely fascinating. Look at the Texas growth. Would you ever believe in the last 10 years, Texas, as we all know, is the #1 producer of oil and gas, would you ever believe in the last 10 years that Ohio's had 2.5 times the production growth of natural gas in Texas? Now, this is why we formed Shale Crescent. Very few people know this, and this is kind of where Ohio and Gas Energy Education Program and Shale Crescent meet. Ohio and Gas Energy Education Program was set up for 2 reasons. One was to inform the public of the good we created. That's why we wanted to do this study and say there's $1 trillion that have been saved cumulative over the last 10 years. We're going to start moving that message out in the next few weeks into the media. So if there's anybody in here from the media, you can contact Rhonda Rita over here at this table right here, and she'll set up to give you the full report. The other reason was, believe it or not, it was a checkoff program. And you may wonder, what's a checkoff program when we formed it 21 years ago? Remember the Got Milk commercials where you had to promote Got Milks to increase the production? consumption of milk. That's why we formed OOGA. We never thought we'd be in the position now of what a checkoff program really does, and that is we need to drive up demand. When you look at it, our problem of low natural gas prices is a problem of overproduction and underconsumption. And that's really what Shale Crescent does. Our mission is to try to bring heavy industry manufacturers to this region to consume a lot of this natural gas and natural gas liquids. And how we do that is, we do that by doing the basic research. This is just one small piece of what we really do, to basic research to shift people's position. When I show you this chart and show you that 85% of the growth in natural gas production came from this area, very few people know that. Very few people in the downstream industry know that. Very few know that. They assume, as one person told me, we just assumed this was all coming from Texas. And it's not. Matter of fact, I don't show what happened to the offshore here. If I'd show you the offshore market, the reason I can't show you is the offshore market dropped. So when you combine Texas, Louisiana, and offshore, which is the Gulf Coast natural gas market, it has not grown at all in the last 10 years. Yet they're getting nearly $150 billion worth of new plant investment on the Gulf Coast because of the increased natural gas production in the United States. And yet we were the ones that supplied all the natural gas. And that's really our mission, is to make sure the executives, when they're going to build the next round of plants, we'd like the plants here. And there's two main reasons you need to think about as producers. First, we all like to do good for our communities. My dad used to tell me the number one way you can help a man is help him get a good job. If we bring in good jobs, and the American Chemistry Council says we could create 100,000 jobs in the tri-state region using our natural gas and natural gas liquids in the manufacturing side, that's a lot of great jobs. That's number one. Number two is, the closer we build the demand to the wellhead, the better off all the producers are going to be. And right now, this is a tough time, as you all know, to be a producer. I'm one too. And so that's really what we're trying to do. We appreciate the cooperation that we've had from the Ohio Gas Energy Education Program. It was a joint venture between our two efforts. We're getting ready to start rolling this out both nationally and locally. Hopefully in the next few months you'll see some of this, but we wanted to get the preliminary results to you today. With that, I would like to introduce Ralph Talmadge, current chair, or getting ready to be past chair of the Ohio Gas Energy Education Program. As a past chairman myself of the Ohio Gas Energy Education Program, I would like to present this award to Ralph Talmadge for all his dedicated years of service. If some of you are not involved in committees and volunteering on things like OOGA or volunteering on committees with the Ohio Gas Association, you need to get involved. This association, OOGA and all these things, moved by the knowledge and the volunteer work of people like Ralph, who's headed OOGA over the last several years. Thank you, Ralph. Boy, that's a dangerous thing. Be careful with that.
I see we have a pretty sparse crowd out here this morning. I'm going to need your help. So when you see people that weren't here this morning, you need to inform them that if you drink a lot of scotch and ice at night, the next day you're probably going to have a headache. And if you drink a lot of gin and ice, the next day you're probably going to have flu-like symptoms. And if you drink a lot of bourbon and ice, you're probably going to have digestible problems. So when you see people out there today that haven't been in this room this morning, tell them to knock off the ice. It's dangerous. As many of you know, I've served on the OOGA board and the OOGA board for a number of years and a bunch of nonprofit boards. Excuse me here. Unfortunately, OOGA has term limits, and I've actually been the treasurer for OOGA for 8 years and the chairman for 1 year. And time flies when you're having fun. You know, I can't believe I've been on OOGA's board for 9 years, and I think it's an honor and a pleasure for me to represent the interests of the industry, especially the last several years, where I've taken a much more active role. During my years as OOGA's board member, I've seen so many programs that we've created, implemented, and thanks to the support of the Ohio producers for both conventional and horizontal, because you're funding this, and a lot of you guys aren't on our board, but our committee chairs or help us out on projects and teacher workshops and stuff, so that it's really great for the support that we've been given. I'd like to go over some of the stuff we've done. Oh, it's already up there. Jerry hit it. Anyway, we have a firefighter training program that we've had 1,556 firefighters go through from 329 fire departments in 63 counties and actually 7 departments from other states. And it's a wonderful program because we have a tank battery, we put oil in it and light it on fire and give them foam and show them how to put it out and train them on it. And it's really helped the industry in the few times we've had fires to take care of and have some people that have expertise. And the funny thing is, Oklahoma, we modeled our program of OOGA and talked to them about this funding set off from production. And Oklahoma's come back to us now and wants help setting up a firefighter training program. So what goes around comes around. I think it's wonderful that we're able to assist and help them. OOGA has, for science fairs, has awarded 248 state awards at The Ohio State University, representing over 130 middle and high school in Ohio. And we've also started a couple of district fairs, one with Belmont College and one with the University of Akron. Scholarship awards. OOGA has awarded 413 scholarships, representing 258 students from 46 different colleges, university, trade, and technical schools. Our safety training program has had more than 3,421 workers attend, and in the last few years, there were 739 certified IAD, Rig Pass, Safe Land training certificates awarded. Our workforce development, we're now working with more than 90 different colleges, universities, trades, and technical schools on related oil and gas training programs. OOGA has completed a career guides to encourage the next generation of young people to go into the oil and gas business that covers 82 different career paths. The social media, I don't know beans about that stuff. I don't do Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, but we are doing Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, industry, Instagram and stuff, and this stuff the younger generation is into, and there's a lot of negative out there. So hopefully, with us putting positive stuff out there, that will counter some of that. Community events, OOGA continues to do more than 100 public presentations every year with community events and trade shows and what have you. And OOGA has brought back the Rockin' in Ohio, which was a program we developed with Disney and that was canceled. And we brought it back so it goes to the schools and does a fun game type presentation about the benefits of oil and gas. We started a scouting merit badge, and we've got 3 different Ohio camps, and we've awarded over 1,000 oil and gas merit badges to the Boy Scouts. And community and public relations, you've heard a little bit from Jerry and Greg about how we're trying to outreach with impact studies and a campaign to inform the general public. So I want to thank everybody here so much for allowing me to have the honor of serving on the board and be the past treasurer and now the chair, and dedicated to the needs of this industry. And as the chairman for the last year, I can't begin to thank the leadership, volunteers, and staff for making this program model for the rest of the country. I'd like to recognize our staff. Would everybody please stand up on the staff when I read your name, but not Rhonda. She's got double boots on, if you've noticed. So Rhonda Rita, the executive director. Ann Atkins, our visual communications and office manager. Kennedy Copeland, our external communications. Mike Dutton, our education community events coordinator. And Catherine Watkins, our accounting assistant and executive. I'd also like any of the board members of OOGA to stand up. I'm not going to read all their names. Do we have any of them here? And I probably should have clicked my... Okay, there's the board or what have you. So if the board members would stand up, and thank you, everyone.
It is the most remarkable thing. We're running on time, if not doing a little bit better. That's great. I would like to thank the team at OOGA for all the hard work they do every day, educating and advocating on behalf of this wonderful industry. Up next is Mr. Jonathan Bell, who's an engineer from the Williams Company, sharing their landslide management program in the Northeast operating area. Mr. Bell has more than 13 years of practical and specialized geotechnical engineering experience. During that time, he has focused on geotechnical designs for oil and gas well pads, facility equipment, and pipelines. He joined Williams in 2015, is now a key contributor to Williams' landslide management program. I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Bell. Thanks.
Hi, I'm John Bell. I'm Williams' geotechnical subject matter expert for the Northeastern United States operating area. Went to school at the University of Pittsburgh, graduated with a master's degree in civil engineering with a geotechnical engineering focus. After graduating, I consulted for 10 years, specializing in all things geotech, retaining walls, foundations, landslides. Joined Williams in 2015, and ever since then, I've been primarily focused on geohazards, i.e. landslides, and how they interact with pipelines. So I'm here to discuss Williams' landslide management program for the Northeastern United States operating area. I broke the presentation up into 5 sections. So the first section, I'll go over Williams' Northeast operating area and associated landslide susceptibility. Then I'll move on to Williams' landslide history and our streamlined landslide management program that we've developed over the past 7 years to, mitigate and really deal with these landslides. And there's a big industry push to route pipelines for engineering purposes better and implement better construction methods to mitigate against landslides. And then I'll go over an example remediation and some lessons learned. So I'll take you through a little journey of landslide susceptibility in the northeastern United States. So the Appalachia Basin province contains sedimentary rocks throughout the northeastern portion of the United States. A bunch of states are involved. So Williams owns and operates thousands of miles of pipeline in the northern panhandle of West Virginia, southwestern Pennsylvania, and southeastern Ohio. The terrain is rugged, hills, we have different challenging geology. Covers 186,000 square miles. So let's zoom in a little more here. So this here, the red, orange, and blue areas, these were overlaid on Google Earth. So these are high incidence and high susceptibility landslide areas, which means greater than 15% of the area involved experiences landslides. So the black dashed rectangular box there, I'm going to kind of zoom in on that because that's basically where Williams owns and operates most of their Ohio River Supply Hub system and a lot of their gathering and transmission lines. Not only Williams, industry-wide. If you walk these hillsides, there's pipes with multiple operators. I can't tell you, I've walked and looked at so many landslides. I've seen so much pipe, it's not just Williams, thousands upon thousands of miles of pipeline. The guy before mentioned, what was coming out of the Marcellus Shale in Utica. It's an absurd amount of gas. So we zoomed in a little bit more. These are Williams pipeline systems within the northern panhandle of West Virginia, southeastern Ohio, southwestern PA. So Utica Supply Hub is Ohio, northern panhandle of West Virginia, Ohio River Supply Hub. East of that, that's our Laurel Mountain Midstream. So take a look. Greater than 15% of the area is either susceptible to landslides or experiences landslides, and we have pipelines everywhere, not just Williams, everyone. So what do we do about this, right? Well, let's zoom in one more frame here. So USGS ancient landslide maps. These guys in the 70s, they looked at stereographic imagery and topography, and they said, hey, what areas look like they may have moved in the past? So each blob you're seeing on this zoomed in rectangle, it's a 5 mile by 5 mile area. That's an ancient landslide that these guys mapped. So if you think about this, that looks about like 15% of the area. So that USGS landslide susceptibility map we just looked at, it's jiving up pretty well with what these guys came up with in the 70s. So you can see the yellow lines, those are Williams pipelines. no matter what you're doing, you're going to put a pipeline in, and eventually you're going through one of these ancient landslides. You try to snake around and avoid them to the extent possible, but I mean, take a look at it, right? Zooming in a little more. This is a 1,000-foot stretch of Williams Pipeline. So those black outlined areas, those are actual delineated landslides, not ancient landslides. They're ones that we've looked at and we've said, this is a landslide. So you have to monitor and track all your landslides around your pipeline right-of-ways. And I just want to make it clear, we're not putting pipeline in and causing landslides over and over. Like, some of these landslides are out there, you know, some of them aren't. Like, some of them, yeah, maybe we're changing groundwater and subsurface conditions and, you know, mobilizing some of these areas, and, you know, we have some landslide issues. So basically, over the past 7 years, Williams has delineated 2,000 landslides. We delineate, track, you know, we monitor, mitigate, remediate, do whatever we can so we don't have pipeline impacts and environmental impacts. We track it year by year. You see this bar chart, blue, that's landslides detected. There was a big surge in 2013. We bought a significant portion of pipeline in the northern panhandle of West Virginia and southeastern Ohio. So we said, wow, we have a landslide problem. So we got a big handle on it and said, all right, we went out and detected a lot. But year by year, we're detecting more and more. And then you see in the bar graph, or the bar chart too, you know, right next to the blue, there's the orange. Those are landslides that we actually repair. It's impossible to repair every landslide in these areas, so you have to pick and choose. And I'll kind of go over how Williams rates these landslides and, you know, what order we remediate in. We could talk about factors causing landslides on pipeline right-of-ways for days, but we don't have that kind of time. I'm kind of trying to give you a global overview. Basically, water is a huge concern. The precipitation we experience now, it's unreal. Like, we'll get 10-inch rain events over 3 days. Like, we haven't seen this kind of precipitation 10 years ago. Like, I'm seeing it over and over now. So failure to control surface water, subsurface water. Sometimes when you're trying to restore pipeline right-of-ways, you're placing soil fill steeper than 30 degrees, about 1.75 horizontal to 1 vertical. Soil really doesn't want to stay up that steep. Also, I showed you the ancient landslide mapping from before. I mean, we're putting pipeline in, and there are pipelines installed through these ancient landslides. Sometimes you can reactivate them. We're also disturbing landslide-prone soils. The geology, it just lends itself to landslide susceptibility. Why do we care about landslides? Landslides, they can deposit material into streams, they can cause sedimentation issues, they can become environmental issues. Not only that, if you have a landslide, say you have a pipe installed through a hill, the landslide failure plane is below your pipeline, that landslide, it's gonna grip your pipeline, take it for a little ride. If it moves it enough, it'll strain it too much and it can rupture it. And we've seen, these are transmission lines, these aren't Williams lines, but the one on the left, there was a recent blast in Noble County, Ohio. I don't know that this was a landslide that caused it, but I did some research on the site, and there is an ancient landslide documented in the area. So the PHMSA review, the PHMSA reviews take like 6 months until they release anything. So I'm waiting on that to see if I was right about that one, see if it was. It could have just been a corrosion issue, I don't know. The two on the right, the one up top, that's Beaver County, Pennsylvania. There was a pipeline blast on a transmission line, and that was a big issue because there was a residence nearby. That one was definitely caused by a landslide. The one below it, that was another transmission line about 10 miles southeast of Moundsville, and that was caused by a landslide. So, I mean, there's a lot of pipeline in the hills. They're not all just, you know, being impacted by landslides, but when they do, it is a big issue. Industry-wide, like, everyone needs to think about the best way to prevent this from happening because it affects us all. You see that the pipeline ruptures bring new scrutiny to Pennsylvania geology. That is an article from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette from 2018. So media outlets pick up on this. Like, everyone's looking closer at this because it rains so much. We have so many landslides now, right? So over the past 7 years, Williams has developed a streamlined landslide management program to address this issue. It consists of identifying, evaluating, remediating, and monitoring landslides. You can't just go out, identify a landslide, and say, all right, there's a landslide, I'm done with it. No, it's a continual process. You have to evaluate these landslides, figure out which ones you're gonna repair, try to prevent landslides from happening, and then you have to monitor and make sure that your fixes you put into place continue to work. It's like a lessons learned kind of thing. This needs to happen industry-wide too, and there needs to be information sharing so everyone knows what everyone else is doing. So that's kind of why I'm here, to let you know, like let you in on my world, and you can see exactly what I do. Identifying landslides. You have 10 miles of pipeline. All right, you can walk that pipeline right away, find landslides. You can do an aerial patrol with a helicopter. I don't have 10 miles of pipeline. I have thousands of miles of pipeline. It's super difficult terrain to walk, and when you're flying over, you sometimes don't see all the landslides. So we've been leaning heavily on using LiDAR, which is we take an airplane, fly it at a constant elevation over the ground, attach a laser scanner to it. It shoots 10 lasers per square meter off the ground, bounces off the ground, back up to the laser scanner. You know the speed of light, so you know the elevation the plane was flying at. So basically, you have elevation points, 10 elevation points per square meter. So I have regional topography, and we do this yearly over the northern panhandle of West Virginia, flaring out into southwestern PA and southeastern Ohio. What do I do with this LiDAR? Well, we do it yearly. We take the LiDAR and develop digital elevation models, which is regional topography. So I have topography in hillshades. Hill shading is, you tell the computer to shine a hypothetical light source off the ground, then it will shadow scarps, which are decreases in elevation, and shadow toe bulges. It kind of looks like a shot of the moon. You can see craters, So basically, it shows you see that outlined area on the image below. That's a landslide. And I walked that right away, and it was difficult to see that landslide. I walked over it, and it was pretty heavily vegetated. And I was like, wow, I would have never caught that if I didn't do LiDAR. And the cool thing about the LiDAR is you zoom out, and you can pan your entire pipeline system using desktop methods and delineate all your landslides in one fell swoop every year. It's an unbelievably powerful tool, and I'm going to be a part of some JIP joint efforts to kind of do LiDAR sharing, so other operators can also have access to this information too. Because I have LiDAR and hill shades on other people's pipelines. It's like I'm only looking at mine, but I have it everywhere else too, because we do regional flyovers. If you have successive LiDAR data sets, one year after another, you can generate heat mapping, tell the computer, hey, show me what areas dropped a foot, what areas raised a foot, color them blue and red, and then if you're panning over an entire pipeline system, those landslides are pretty easy to find then. Every year, we do LiDAR. We're doing it right now, actually. They fly it, they give me back all the data. I do hill shades, etc. I rate all the landslides in an order. If you have 5 landslides, does rating them with respect to pipeline integrity hazard and environmental issues, does it make sense? Probably not, but I have 2,000. So the system we came up with, we have a pipeline integrity hazard rating and an environmental or erosion hazard rating. It's a sliding scale from 1 to 6. So P1 is, I have a landslide, this thing's nowhere near a pipeline, it's not gonna be a problem. Slide up the scale. P6, I've got a landslide, this thing is tugging on my pipeline. I have to go in right now and remediate. Similarly, erosion or environmental hazard, E1, I have a landslide totally grown in. Like this thing's nowhere near a stream, it's not gonna be an issue. Slide the scale up, E6, I have a landslide and this has deposited material into a stream. I need to go in and clean that stream out. Or it's affected like a well pad access road or some kind of critical offsite facility. So every year, I take all the landslides, I'll look at 300 new ones, I do the LiDAR, find all the new ones, and then I go back and look at all 2,000 of my old ones. And then I reassign P&E values to all of them. Then after that, we take the top 30 or 40, however many we think we need to repair. We develop landslide remedial plans internally for these. We use the LiDAR to develop plans. I'll show like drain locations. We come up with quantities. I'll show a cross-section on how we're going to repair this landslide. We have typical details. There's an OOGA document that's publicly available to everyone. There's 75 typical mitigation details, and the OOGA document goes over everything I'm going over here, but you can grab these details and show, hey, this is how I'm gonna fix my landslide, it's this style of landslide, these are the details I wanna utilize. So again, we'll go through, we'll do like 40 or 50 a year of repairs, depending on how bad the year was. But we have that rating system, come up with the ones we're gonna fix. So, yeah, it's all well and good. We have operating pipelines. We're repairing landslides on them. Like, let's get around these landslides. Like, we're still putting in new pipeline. It's not like, hey, we stopped and we're just operating pipelines. We need to get better as an industry of routing pipelines in a manner to avoid landslides and construction methods to mitigate against landslides. So I'll kind of go over routing first. Is this going to go through? There we go. Pipeline routing, I'm not a routing expert, but it is like a logical procedure where you have a start and end point. You know, you figure out where you think your pipe wants to go, and you know, you go through iterations with land and survey, and then finally you have a final route. You need to consider landslides when you're routing. If you don't, you are cruising for a bruising, especially if your pipeline is within that red, orange, and blue area. I showed you the landslide susceptibility map at the beginning. You got a pipeline going through there, consider landslides. Like, don't think you can just put a pipeline in and, hey, it'll be all hunky-dory. So project kickoff, start and end point. I'm gonna put in a 20-mile section of pipe from one point to another. Seems pretty easy, right? Preferred and non-preferred installation scenarios. So you wanna look at it from a holistic perspective. Like, I'm going from here to here. I have peaks and valleys, hilltops, steep slopes. What's the best way to install the pipeline to mitigate against landslides without doing any research or anything like that? Well, you want to put your pipe in valley bottoms. It's flat. You're not going to have a landslide. And get that pipe up on ridge tops, shallow to bedrock. You can key it into bedrock. And if you're going between the two, like, you're never going to be able to just ride a pipe or ride a valley bottom for 20 miles. Like, that's not how it works in West Virginia, Eastern Ohio. So if you're going between the ridge tops, valley bottoms, go straight up and down the slope. If you have land movement straight up and down the slope, typically it just kind of slides with the pipe and it won't stress it unless you have a sag bend at the bottom of a hill. You want to avoid side slopes. Side slopes are killer. If you have a pipeline you're putting on a side slope and you have a landslide, those are the ones that will get you. And those two blasts I had showed you before, those were two, two side hills. So we know preferred and non-preferred installation scenarios. We go through, we say, all right, we got our start and end points. We're gonna weave our pipeline through here. Let's do the preferred and non-preferred installation scenarios. And then we'll check land acquisition, environmental considerations, survey permissions, etc. At this point, you wanna kind of start looking at ancient landslides and, you know, do some landslide assessing. And what I do at this point is we'll take hillshades and just make sure, am I going up and down the slopes properly? It's a little easier to see the terrain, like you can see, like, you know, topographic relief easier on hillshades, and say, all right, I avoided side slopes to the extent possible. I also do an ancient landslide mapping overlay. Again, these are publicly available PDFs you can download through the USGS. We digitize them, put them into Google Earth, and then I have my pipeline alignment. And it's like, at this point, someone had documented, you know, an area that moved in the past in the 70s or, you know, 1,000 years ago. Let's try to avoid these areas, right? Like, if it's mapped, like, I want to get around this area. So you can kind of weave your pipeline in and out, and it's a good time to do it when you have your routes kind of set up. Do a ground recon. I mean, you have to kind of true everything up. Get out, get on the ground, look through everything, consult with property owners to serve as little land as possible. Won't spend too much time on that. So when it's all said and done, I got a final route now. I said, I got my land together. I tried to avoid, you know, going on side slopes. I tried to avoid going straight through ancient landslides, avoiding, you know, any problematic areas. Now you want to do a detailed geohazard assessment. You can't just say, all right, I'm done, I'm going to put my pipe in. This detailed geohazard assessment, This is a method that I've developed. I don't know that it's the best. Hey, I mean, it is a method, and I do want the industry to start looking closer at this, and eventually we're going to get it really streamlined and get something in place that is even more powerful than I'm doing, but this seems to work really well for me. So new pipelines, I'll look for landside triggers. Again, I have my route finalized. I'm going to look for landside triggers such as landslide prone geology, coal seam outcrop, Ames limestone. If you get a site-specific regional geotech, they can tell you what the landslide triggers with respect to geology are. And since I'm a geotech expert, I know the area and I know what they are. I also do a USDA soil survey search. Colluvium is defined as landslide deposited soils. So the USDA soil survey, if it's telling me there's landslide deposited soils there, I better look closer at that area, right? Like someone mapped it for a reason. It's an easy desktop search you can do, not tough. Again, I'll look closer at mapped ancient landslides. I'll do a deeper dive. I'll look at the hillshades closer. Those hillshades will show you areas that have moved. If an area has moved and you're gonna put a pipeline through there, that area is gonna move again. Like you better do something when you put your pipeline through there to make sure it does not move again. And I'll look for slopes steeper than 30 degrees. You can't avoid them. Some of these slopes next to streams, they're steep, and pipeline is going in and pipeline is in there. I'll go through, overlay my pipeline, look for those 5 landslide triggers, and then I'll say, hey, does my pipeline intersect with any of those landslide triggers? If it does, that's a higher risk area. If it does not, that's a lower risk area. You could put medium in there, but I typically go with higher and lower. It seems to kind of just, it's not as confusing. So for low risk areas, I won't look at these any closer. I'll do typical site restoration measures, which are, water bars and stuff in your E&S plans. Higher risk areas, I'll start looking at these closer. And I'll say, hey, this higher risk area looks not so bad, but it does intersect one of these landslide triggers. So I'll say higher risk area, it intersects, not looking so bad. Let's implement low level mitigation measures. And I won't do any extra detailed analysis. I'll just kind of look at it and say, hey, this is what we need to do here. If it's an area that looks particularly bad, I'll assign that as needing high level mitigation measures, and I do a detailed analysis for these areas. And this is what I feel like all the operators should be doing, something like this. If not exactly this, something similar. And like I said, we'll refine the process. Lower risk areas, I signed and said, all right, it's not really going to be that bad. Do typical revegetation, erosion control. This is stuff that goes in the E&S drawings. Like, it's common. Properly backfill. You want to restore existing drainage features. If you have like a log road that's pushing water onto your right-of-way, reestablish that to get the water off the right-of-way. Again, these are just typical E&S measures. Okay, so now we're starting to get into, I have an area that intersected one of my landslide triggers. So what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna I don't think it looks so bad, so I'm gonna say, all right, low level mitigation measures will suffice. So typically what we do, we install a lot of drains, subsurface drains. Yeah, you can use standard aggregate drains. They're costly, it's a pain in the butt to get all that rock in place. So we've been relying heavily on drainage geocomposite, kind of lay it in the bottom of the pipe trench to drain water out. We bleed out if you have a pipe on a side slope. You can't avoid all side slopes. You have a pipe on a side slope. If you think you're gonna crack through some rock and water's gonna bleed from that rock, you wanna drain it through the right of way, do some bleeder drains. If you're going on a side slope, you can tell the contractor, hey, you should probably be lowering the pipeline into rock here, so look out for that, right? Soil conditioning, if I think I'm gonna have fat clays or some kind of weak, wet clays in the area, we'll blend it with cal cement. It's like a lime cement mixture to improve the properties of the soil. And unstable material over excavation. If I looked at the hillshades and said, hey, this area looks a little bit unstable, I'm gonna tell the contractor, why don't you dig this out? Like, let's not just leave it in. It's gonna slide again, I guarantee, right? I've seen it over and over. Like, I think I've looked at more landslides than anyone in the world at this point. High-level mitigation measures. This is an area I said, this is particularly bad. So what we typically do, we'll slope armor. We'll basically, if you have a real steep slope next to a stream, you're going to want to get rid of that dirt. That soil's not going to stay back up on the slope steeper than approximately 1.75 to 1. Replace it with rock fill. The rock fill stays up, and then waste that soil somewhere else on right away in a more stable, flatter area. Grading back slope, you got a steep slope, not so steep on top. You can sometimes cut between the two, and then you'll have a more stable, steeper, or less steeper slope attaching to the flatter area. You want to make sure you incorporate that into your permit drawings because you're not reestablishing pre-existing grades at that point. Soil nailing, this is a big one. There's a GSI booth over there. Those guys, they put soil nails in the ground, and then you put a tension wire mesh on top, and it sucks the ground to the slope. We did some of this out on Atlantic Sunrise. There's Propex Armor Max. It's just a different method where you're using percussive anchors. GeoGrid, if I'm trying to place fill steeper than 2 to 1, I will reinforce it with GeoGrid. It's tough to get your layback. You need the GeoGrid to be like 10 feet long in order for the slopes to stay up. So for these high-level mitigation measure areas, I always do a detailed analysis. I can't tell you how many times I'll go out and look at a slope and say, hey, I think this is what I'm going to do to fix this thing, or make it stable. And then you go back and you do your detailed analysis with slope stability software. It turns out, hey, there was another method that was cheaper, or there's another method that works better. Like sometimes it fools you. Like I have a lot of experience, but you can be fooled. So I'll go through, I'll do a site recon, model the subsurface strata. I'll use USDA soil survey info, test pits, test borings, whatever. Analyze the critical cross section. I use Slide. You can use G-Stable. There's all kinds of slope stability software out there. And then I determine the appropriate high-level mitigation measure that I just talked about. We've been relying heavily on rock fill. The steeper slopes next to streams, I've tried to put dirt up, even with GeoGrid. Sometimes it's not working so well. The rock really, really is working. But you have to find somewhere to waste all that soil you over-excavated. It's important to summarize these mitigation measures. So whatever the contractor is going to do in the field, summarize it to make sure that we're doing lessons learned. You know, it's like if we did something and it didn't work, like I better know about that because I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. So summarize what you're doing, where you're doing it, etc. Incorporate it into construction drawings. Very important to getting onto drawings. If it doesn't get onto drawings, pipeline contractors, sometimes they don't know about it and they don't implement these mitigation measures. Show where you're putting drains. You'll want to mark up the drawings afterwards too if you move drains around in the field. So when it's all said and done, if I had 5 landslides on a new stretch of pipe I put in, why did I have them? Did I miss something? Or did I do like an incorrect mitigation measure? Like why didn't it work? Again, lessons learned, and I will be part of these JIP teams where everyone's telling me their lessons learned, I tell them, and it's like as an industry we can kind of get over this landslide issue. Construction inspections are really important. You need a good construction inspector to look for cracks in the ground, red clays, any areas that you think are going to be unstable. Example landslide triggers, this would be part of construction inspections. See the image on the left? That's a thin gray, highly plastic clay seam. They're like this thick. These things cause massive landslides. Like it's a really, really weak clay layer. Depending on your site configuration with respect to the pipeline, you can have a giant landslide with something small like that. It's something easy to look for in the field, and these are all over Ohio, southeastern Ohio, southwestern PA, northern Panhandle, West Virginia. Excuse me. Coal seams, they tend to bleed water. They're surrounded by highly plastic clays, similar to the little slip clay seam. Depending on how your pipe is configured with respect to those coal seams, you want to probably put drains in and maybe break through all the fat clay and break through any potential landslide layer. Again, we go back to the monitoring plan. You implemented all these mitigation measures. It's not done. Keep monitoring that pipeline right away. Figure out what worked. Williams does LIDAR and generates these hillshades for the entire northern panhandle of West Virginia, flaring out in southwestern PA and southeastern Ohio, and complement it with aerial and field patrols. The one on the left, bottom right is, the helicopter catches landslides too. It's like before, that would have been caught with the LIDAR, but because we're doing helicopter flyovers on our transmission lines every 10 weeks, like we'll catch other landslides. I'll quickly go over an example remediation and lessons learned. This was Newman Ridge. We installed a pipeline in 2015. We implemented some mitigation measures during construction, but we ended up having 4 landslides, one after another, year by year. And it's like, it is such a pain to go back into these sites after your pipeline is installed and repair these landslides. Whew, I hate that, right? Landslide 20941, look on the left image. That's me standing on the other hillside. There's a valley. I'm standing on this hillside looking over. It's a pretty big landslide. That thing spilled material off right away. So the other 2 images, me standing on the landslide. So I walk up and down these hills, keeps me fit, and I get to look at landslides. Always, if you're gonna repair a landslide, always look at the landslide. You can't just say, I know what I'm doing. Like, there's other stuff out there that you may not see doing desktop methods. Came up with a landslide remedial plan for this. Consisted of over-excavating landslide material, installing drains, replacing that landslide material as compacted fill. And you see the image on the left? That's the nice repaired right away. Okay, so let's go a little further here. So that guy there, that was that image I showed you before from the aerial patrol. That was right below what we just fixed. It happened the next year. I said, oh man, okay, the permit wasn't closed out on this. We had to go back in and fix this. So that's an aerial picture. It's me walking the hill looking at it. Came up with a fix, similar to the other fix. I'm just gonna dig it out. It wasn't all that much dirt. Dig it out. I'm gonna install some drains, make sure if there was water seeping from behind the slide, get my drains in. I'm gonna install reinforce, I put geogrid in this. It was a little steeper than 2 to 1. Okay, so you see on the image on the right, landslide 60405. That's the one we had. Oh no, we put mitigation measures in on top of that pipeline, which consisted of rock fill that we hope would stay up. That rock fill all washed off the pipe. So now I have exposed pipe. You can see the exposed pipe, and it's like, geez, now I gotta go in and fix this. This happened, it was literally like 2 weeks later. There was so much rain that occurred to cause these landslides, and it's like something was happening in the ground, the water was bleeding out, and it's like, now I gotta go back in and cover this pipe up. So we got to restore pipeline cover on a really steep slope. So we came up with a scheme. Well, I came up with a scheme, but it was trench breakers, beefy trench breakers, sandbags, quickcrete sacks with drains behind them, and then we backfilled on top of the pipeline with reinforced backfill. It was geogrid reinforced, so it would stay up steeper than. It was like a 1.5 to 1 there. We also covered the ground surface with a Fleximat liner for erosion protection. And take a look at that image on the left. So you see I have my access lane. I'm getting equipment down there to cover the pipe. They're kind of on their way out. Whoops, that entire access lane, we revegetated the thing. It didn't establish revegetation quick enough, and it rained. This was like the 10-inch rain event in 3 days, and it just washed dirt down the slope. Set up silt fences to protect the stream. We had to go back in and remediate this area also. That remediation consisted of drains, water bars, and vegetation. And I haven't been back out to this site, and I really hope I'm not gonna have to go back out to this site. But lesson learned is we probably should have just backfilled on top of that pipe that became exposed with the geogrid in the first place. And maybe could we have installed more drains on this hill? Yeah, I don't know. Like it's a give or take. You sometimes don't know where these things are going to end up, but definitely over the pipeline, I would have installed the geogrid backfill. So lessons learned, like next time around, if I'm going down a slope like this with a new pipe, I'm going to really think hard if the slope kind of looks like this, because I've seen some compounding issues. That's it for my presentation. I think I might have went under on time. I spoke a little quick. I can field questions if we have time. If not, yeah, no big deal. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your comments. That concludes our business session. I invite you to attend one of our 2 breakout sessions that are happening beginning at 10:15. The OOGA Commerce Committee is hosting a discussion on access to markets in this big emerging debate over Ohio power generation. Pretty interesting ideas being batted around that certainly will impact your business. And in Region 1, the Ohio Legal Committee is hosting a conversation about navigating Ohio's legal landscape. That's in Magnolia Room. The other one's in Region 1. After the conclusion of those breakouts, our keynote lunch with our very special guest will take place in the Eastern Ballroom. That is sponsored by XTO Energy and Nikolazakis Trucking and Construction. That's going to be very exciting. Those doors open at 10:30. And so it's going to be some logistics of getting in here, so keep that in mind. I hate to say this to you, but I need all you people to get out of this room. We got to clear it, and so we get ready for the keynote speech. So thank you for attending. See you in just a little while.